Welcome back to week 2, day 4 of the LPL in our spring split on the English broadcast, of course. And we have our next game coming up very shortly. The first one was over surprisingly quickly, but we do have Vici Gaming going up against Team WE. Now, it's been a while since we've seen Vici. If you joined us last split, they weren't here, but now they are back, and this is our first time seeing them, Rusty.
Yeah, welcome back to the LPL Vici Gaming. Of course, they were just in the LSPL. They promoted automatically by finishing first place, so congratulations to them for that, of course. And a couple of things from this roster has in fact changed since we did last see them in the LPL. Bengi's gone. Bengi's no longer going to be the starting jungler for them. However, Easyhoon does remain, and they've swapped out Bengi for another Korean jungler in Crash, who you may have seen at Worlds for 1907 Fenerbahce. So now he's going to be there taking the ranks for them in the jungle position. And what this is meant to do for Vici, which is meant to help them a lot more, enable them a little bit more as a team, is he's pretty aggressive. Crash does love to go forwards and loves his engages. You saw that from him at Worlds if you were watching the play-ins as well. He does love to go forwards, and that may help Vici, who are known as a very slow team.
I mean, they are extremely, extremely slow, and I think a lot of that emanated from the middle lane. Easyhoon alongside him, Crash, as you mentioned. Meow in the top lane with Martin and Caveman in the bottom side for Vici.
Yeah, of course, the rest of the roster you may be still reasonably familiar with. Meow is the new face. Now, you haven't often seen Meow. He's played Maokai in one of his first games. So
did he play Maokai?
Big fan. I don't know, actually. I wasn't paying attention to the skin. God, I hope so. But he's with Martin and Caveman, the rest of the Vici roster. They've been around forever, and they are pretty much known as, whilst Fisher's one of his favorite, lanes down there, Vici's bottom lane, they're not that great, or they haven't been that great in the past, I should say. So now they have the opportunity to come back into the LPL and show all of the things they've learned.
Now, it's worth mentioning Hoon is behind them as well as their coach, and that means we have pretty much the March of the Hoons right now. We do call them the Hoon Squad, like what was this turned into. But importantly, he is from WE, so this is going to be very interesting because he knows all of the WE strategies.
If anybody can beat Team WE, Pulse, it is going to be one of the former coaches for that team now for Vici. Knowing exactly what they are means you know their weaknesses just as much as you know their strengths.
But the big story, of course, for WE is that Condi's back. No more Melon for at least this week. 957, xiye, Mystic, and Ben. So same old, but the family's back together, Rusty.
Yeah, goodbye, Melon. It was good while it lasted, but of course Condi is here, and Condi, the big superstar for that roster, one of the early aggressive junglers that is needed and necessary for this team to succeed. Something that felt missing for Team WE in their past couple of games has been through that jungle position. So ultimately, I am very excited to see Condi back. I do not think that this is an immediate upgrade for WE in that they will all look better. I just think the jungle role has been upgraded for them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, of course, you have to take in the teamwork aspect of WE because that is such a huge part of what makes them is their pretty much identity. The fact that they have no roster swaps, usually going from split to split, like they're very much like a family-based team. So it will obviously be very impactful later down the line, but Condi right now, he's just come back into the roster. So expecting maybe some teething problems in the first game of the first couple series until they get back on form.
And there's a chance that Team WE don't look near their strongest for the first couple of weeks as well. Not just Condi coming back, but the rest of the team. Mystic said in an interview that they haven't really been practicing all that much. They took a well-deserved break, and rightly so with the amount of time that they've been playing League of Legends, 957 in particular. So they took the break, they come back now, they're well-rested, but perhaps not well-practiced. Condi coming in will help, but that practice will take some time.
Well, with that in mind, Rusty, do you think that Vici has the upper hand coming into this game? Would you give it to Vici? I put you on the spot there.
I can never give it to Vici. I'll be honest with you. If I'm watching Team WE play against Vici in any scenario, it's going to go to 35 minutes. And yes, it's a bit of a meme, but if we get to 35 minutes, I'm pretty sure WE will beat Vici.
You'd think so, but at the same time, Easyhoon, he is the guy who will just farm and farm, and Azir is also in the meta. Either way, we're going to send it over to our casters for the call, so take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Pulse. I'm Fish. Joining me on the casting table, I should say, is Clement. We're about to get into the second series of the day. It's going to be Vici taking on Team WE. Clement, Condi's back. I know we have so many things to talk about, but Condi's back, and that's one of the things we should really address coming into this game.
Exactly. This guy was the heart and soul of WE. He was also a runner-up for the MVP position. W has been sorely missing Condi so far. Hasn't played a single game in the LPL yet. Finally, we're going to see him debut.
And as we heard from the desk earlier, Team WE is a team that keep their players together. Very similar rosters from split to split with very minimal changes. So with the likes of Melon coming in for the first few weeks, it was a sudden shock for the team Now that Condi's back, the question really is, are Team W going to step up to the plate? They're up against Vici, a team that just made it back into the LPL. They had to fight their way through the LSPL, which is almost strange to say, because Vici is almost a household name in esports in general.
That is true. We did see that their roster didn't really work out with Bengi, but they did still manage to get into the LPL with Crash, and they took it over YM, which featured players like Knight and also Tien. So these are a lot of household names that they had to get through to reach this point. And so far, they're the team that we've seen the least of inside the LPL. They've only played one set, and I believe they also lost that set. So we're still seeing what they can bring to the table. But generally, we should expect a lot of team fighting in this series. Both of these teams are more centered around one of their big carries, Easyhoon for Vici, and of course Mystic for WE.
So we'll have to see how this game pans out. As you mentioned, Vici have only played one game in the LPL so far, and that was a loss that they picked up Team WE off to 1 and 2. We are into picks and bans for the first game of this best of 3 series. Zoe, On, and Callista, the 3 bans that come out from Vici. Whereas for the side of Team WE, we have Kog'Maw, Camille, and Azir. Very standard bans from the two sides so far.
You have to respect Easyhoon's Azir. The man has gotten a skin on it, so you definitely want to ban that out. This is what most teams have been doing. But what's really interesting about this draft is that Mystics, most 2 common played AD carries are now off the table, so they will have to look into something that has less power overall. Like Callista and Kog'Maw have been the 2 priority picks at this marksman position. Now they're left out with maybe Ezreal, who has a lot of counters.
And Ezreal is one of the champions that Mystic is well known for. We are still on patch 8.1, so Kleptomancy is a very strong Keystone Mastery to pick up.
Oh, this is the reason why they banned the Kog'Maw. Vayne coming up, a very high win rate solo queue pick, and basically the only counter we've seen so far is the Kog'Maw pick. Kog'Maw kind of outscales her in all at all time frames inside the game. It's really interesting to see what Martin can bring to the table. Mostly his most played has been the Callista as well.
But they don't go for the Vayne, instead they lock in Caitlyn as their AD carry of choice. Jarvan is the first pickup as well from Team WE. We saw that a lot from the EDG against Billy Gaming set earlier today, as well as Sejuani, the first pick from Vici. We've talked about Vayne quite a bit in the LPL. We saw it played in the first match opening the LPL for 2018. Crystal has played it a lot as well. Not going to be picked up by Team WE, but tell me a bit about this Caitlyn, Clement, because it is an interesting pick.
It's basically saying that we know Vici is going to play a 36-minute game, and we want to have one of the best AD carries at that point in time. So they're picking this up, knowing that it's going to go late. Caitlyn still has her fundamental weaknesses in that a lot of mid-games, you don't really see her show up. For Vici Gaming here, we can also talk about their draft. So far, Gnar and Malzahar, kind of a very safe top lane pick, and the last big 4 left on the table here.
Very staple picks from Vici so far. Easyhoon will be comfortable on the Malzahar pick. Should be running that unsealed spellbook later on in the match. Team WE 957 is going to be picking up Gangplank, heading into the top lane against Gnar.
This is another, I think this is actually kind of another curveball. So far we've seen 957 mainly on tanks and then Vladimir. For Gangplank to work, you really need something else inside your team composition to pick up the pace in the mid and the bot lanes. If you don't have that pressure elsewhere on the map, then Gangplank's actually a very easy lane to camp. So I'm kind of curious what they're going to do for xiye. It does feel like they're setting up for like a xiye counter pick, so he can do something with that.
Well, it almost feels like they have 2 of those components already. Jarvan pretty fast in the jungle. Caitlyn very dominant in the bottom lane. So I have to see what the rest of the draft for Team WE pans out to be. They take away Ezreal. They take away Varus as well. Very heavy target bans towards Martin's AD carry pool, whereas Ryze has been taken off the table by Vici, and another mid lane ban of Corki being thrown Cie's way.
Yeah, Corki has definitely been the LPL's answer to the Malzahar pick, so we see that being banned out a lot when teams are left with the Malzahar. The big question now is, what do Vici play as an AD carry? So far it looks like Vayne and Xayah are the next 2 up in terms of just like meta priority, but neither of these picks are going to do very well into Caitlyn.
Whereas Team WE going through a couple of champions, but they settle for Galio. That should be the mid lane pick for xiye. Haven't seen too much of Galio in 2018, but has been very popular today. In week 2, day number 4 of the LPL. Vici still looking for their AD carry, as well as their support pickup.
So we can definitely see what WE is trying to do to make that Gangplank pick work for them. They're going to create action by sending Galio into the bot lane, and hopefully, if they have the wave shoved up enough, they can just dive there. The answer we're going to have from Vici Gaming is actually Jinx. Now, the only major change Jinx has is that she can stop champions charging into her with her Flame Chompers currently in the patch, but still, this is a very slow scaling type of pick. And I'm not sure if Vici can be able to hold that lane. She also misses a lot of wave clear as well.
And as we mentioned earlier on, this is still patch 8.1, so the recent changes that are being applied to Jinx passive, as well as her Q, have not been put into effect. But she will be paired up with Braum in the bottom lane. Is one of the few champions that can go toe-to-toe with Caitlyn's range earlier into the game than normal.
Yep, but still mostly gets bullied out a little bit by the Caitlyn. I do expect this lane to go into W quite handedly, and we're going to see the Janna pick come out. This is one of Ben's pocket picks. We've seen him taking it out before, and it also does very well in terms of laning strength against melee supports like the Braum.
On top of that, paired with a Caitlyn, forms for a very dominant lane for Team WE on the bottom side of the map. We get to see Jinx, though, a very unorthodox AD carry pick currently. Have not seen too much of Jinx, not only throughout the last split, but also early into 2018 competitive League of Legends.
So I think this composition from WE here is a bit faster. They're going to try to push into the bot lane and try to use that Galio plus Gangplank combo to really get the game going. But however, if Vici can make it to the very, very late stages of the game, WE doesn't really have that many tanks, and it's actually going to be fairly easy for the Gnar and the Jinx to kind of chase them down. So I would say like WE is actually going more for the tempo in this game.
Which is surprising to say, because when you think historically of Team WE, this is a team that likes to go into the late game, a team that likes to sit back and scale up. Go up against Vici. Vici historically have been pretty similar.
They're even slower, pretty much.
Take as much time in the world for Vici to try and scale things back up. Historically as well, Vici have been very weak on the bottom side of the map, relying a lot on the top side of their team to dominate the game before transitioning into the late game where their bottom lane kicks in.
And a lot of interest really is being placed, I feel like, in their top lane in Meow. Even though they lost their series against BLG, he actually did very, very well on his Fiora on the individual level. So we can see what else he brings to the table. We know him as kind of a fighter type of top laner. Seeing Jax and also Fiora being banned away from him as well. So that's kind of an interesting matchup to show. Now we're seeing Condi on the screen. Without Condi on the team, I feel like W suffered a lot in their solo lanes. With Melon, you could see he couldn't really hold his own against Sofem. They got pushed into the jungle. The synergy wasn't really there, especially with 957 in him. 957 got dove up plenty of times. I feel with Condi back, xiye and 957 are going to look better.
We'll have to see how Condi does. His first game back in the LPL for 2018. 3 games Team WE had to play with Melon, their substitute jungler, jumping onto the team for those 3 matches. Fans are fighting for that one this time around. Clement not taking turns anymore. Both of them want to chant for their teams as we head on to the Rift for game number 1. Vici taking on Team WE. As we have seen throughout many matches in the LPL, both teams just kind of fanning out across the river, scouting for as much vision as they can.
Pretty safe start. We can see here on the bottom left-hand corner, there are a lot more WE fans than Vici fans. We saw them lining up outside the venue today with a lot of tattoos on their faces.
And Team WE is just such an iconic team, one of the oldest teams in the LPL. Everyone here knows exactly who they are. Vici is not as iconic, but they are such a big brand in esports and in the LPL. It's good to see them come back from the LSPL. As you've mentioned earlier in Picks and Bans, they were able to take down Young Miracles to requalify. And this will be their 2nd match, already 0-1 down in the LPL. And up against Team WE, who now full roster. Condi jumping back onto the Rift. We can see both junglers are starting on the bottom side of the Rift. Blue buff being picked up by Jarvan. Red buff going to be the start for Crash in the jungle.
And this set is, for me, I feel like it's much more important for W to actually take. They do not want to start the new split down 1 and 3 overall in match sets. So this game, we've seen W's Weibo and Condi has just came back to play, so he might still be a little bit rusty there, but they really need to pick up this win.
You can already see the bottom side of the map. Martin as well as Caveman have been pushed back by Mystic and Ben. Good harass coming out from the Caitlyn and Janna.
Yes, both junglers deciding to start on the bot side, so both bot lanes also having equal shove. We can see that Mystic's CS difference is just purely based off the strength of Caitlyn, not because he got to lane earlier.
You can see Condi trying to be aggressive very early into this match. However, Crash is a level above the Jarvan, goes for a small skirmish in the river. But Condi is able to flag and drag away level 2 Jarvan against a level 3 Sejuani.
It's kind of an interesting pathing there coming in from from Condi. He wants to protect the Gangplank as much as possible. If you see hit Condi's warding, it's actually to prevent Sejuani from using the blasting plant over there.
In the mid lane, xiye pushing in Easyhoon as early as he can on this Galio. Galio does well into these majors in the mid lane. Have not seen too much of him since the changes in 2017. But he was a very popular pick at the World Championships last year.
Yeah, and the changes for Galio is that generally his tankiness has been down a little bit, but if he opts into the AP items, he does deal a bit more damage. So in the LCK, we've actually seen him go for a more damage-centric build rather than just going pure tank.
And already you can see he picked up the Dark Seal as his first item of choice heading into the lane. Unsealed Spellbook is the pickup for xiye as well. So very early teleport to come back into the lane against Malzahar. Condi and Crash will go toe-to-toe once more in the jungle. Just duking it out. Good trades coming out from the Sejuani, making full utilization of her passive and the Frozen.
And even though it does seem like Condi is taking the worst side of these trades, it's very important to note that what he's actually doing is that he's setting up vision for his pushing lanes. Right there, just gets a flash out of Crash.
And forcing him back away. Easyhoon, no mana, was forced to head back to base. He's going to change his Ghost out for a teleport. And Condi, with the help of xiye, is able to get some good counter jungling done here against Crash, as well as that summoner spell.
And that was very good pressure from the bot lane as well. Ben hovering out of vision once that skirmish has started. So Vici always had to think about, well, maybe there's going to be a tornado incoming. So them keeping that in the back of their mind really forces it themselves out of that jungle.
Bottom side of the map, it's no different, Clement. And is this kind of what we expect to see from Caitlyn and Janna throughout the rest of this game?
It could be. I feel like the Janna is kind of an underrated pick. The only bad matchup you have is kind of the Shen, but otherwise Janna has, we have seen a lot of Jannas being successful even in the higher tiers of Korean Challenger.
Ooh. Martin and Caveman taking even more harass in this bottom lane. 3 potions still available for the Caitlyn. Refillable potion was the pickup for Martin with his Relic Shield. They will be able to sustain a little bit underneath this turret, but relentless is the pressure from Mystic and Ben.
And I feel like even in the early 5 minutes, we can feel the presence of Condi on the map more than we could feel about Melon. I feel like he just plays with his team a little better. He knows when these pushing lanes are set up, he needs to go and get them vision so they can continue to do their jobs in the side lanes. And this is something we kind of lacked from the previous WE roster with Melon on the team, is that his lanes kind of, they didn't sync up very well. They didn't really support their jungler going in, and a lot of times they would lose the early vision battles. Now Condi back in the roster, able to help his top lane, able to help his bot lane, and also get a flash out of the enemy jungler.
Condi being able to do a good job so far in this match. Still no kills picked up by either side, but it's just the pressure being dished out by Team W that's able to help out. 957, low on mana, low on hit points, up against Meow, who's been doing well on the Gnar so far. But there were no major dives onto this Gangplank, which we've seen as a common strategy against him on the top side of the map. He has hit level 6 as well, so the global ultimate is available for Team WE.
The next big turning point in the game is when WE's bot lane is able to go very close to pushing down Vici's bottom lane. I feel like that's the point where we might see the Galio try to find roams and also the Gangplank cannon barrage being used. Right now, everyone is just, setting up vision, making sure no one's getting their toes stepped on, and just waiting for that big moment where WE can really start to pull the trigger.
In the mid lane, we haven't seen too much of this. xiye as well as Easyhoon are just going to be pushing against one another. Galio fairly tanky against mages, so Malzahar should not be able to take him down too easily. Bottom lane, Jinx and Braum doing okay so far against this matchup. Both AD carries have been able to pick up a BF sword nice and early into the game. Small CS deficit for Mystic and Ben. See Caveman and Martin are hanging on quite well so far.
And we can see the Janna opting in for the Aerie. Typically, we have seen a lot of Comet builds as well, but with the Aerie, it just means that this is a tank support. I can bully him whenever I want to, and we can see Ben just trying to put as much damage as possible on Caveman, make his life a little bit difficult.
They've even gone for the 2017 Worlds summoner spell, so to speak here, Clement, with the barrier picked up by Mystic, which was actually used early on in the match, and heal being picked up by Ben. So these two, although are bullies in this lane, looking to try and scale a little bit into the late game as well.
Yep, their late game teamfight potential is going to be tremendous. On the flip side, what Crash has brought in is a fleet footwork build. Now we've seen this a lot in the first week of LPL, but junglers have tend to switch over more into the aftershock. After you get attack speed from your secondary, Right now, I feel like this build is going to make Crash a bit vulnerable come the late game. He's not going to really have that tankiness. He's doing this more to prevent Condi really invading in on him.
It's also a keystone we see very commonly picked up for Sejuanis at the moment. Just Sejuanis. Some junglers have been swapping in between. I'll have to see how that works out for Crash, because it looked like he was getting some good trades against Condi early into the game, but the teamwork coming out from Team W was able to shove him out of the jungle. But still, it's very quiet in this match so far. Clement has gone as expected. Bottom lane has been pushed in quite heavily as Mystic and Ben. Condi has been putting a lot of pressure on the top side of the map. Crash, you can now see, trying to rotate down into the bottom lane, relieve some pressure for Martin and Caveman. Their bottom lane out of turret already at half health, naturally just 8 minutes and 30 seconds into this game.
And it really is up to Crash to kind of stop what WE's tempo is trying to do. Either he needs to find a pick in the mid lane, or he needs to get a gank in the bot lane to disrupt this pressure coming in from WE. We actually see a teleport right here, bring the unsealed spellbook. So a very popular trend here, but mainly seen with Sivers, now being played on Caitlyn as well, to try to keep that lane pushed in.
Bit of a scuffle in the mid lane. There's an ultimate coming out from Gangplank as well. Condi going to be able to assist xiye to pick up first blood in the mid lane against Easyhoon. Crash forced to back off as well. Even Ben rotating into this mid lane to help out. During that entire time, though, Mystic's been able to go 2-on-1 and take down bottom lane out to turret.
Wow, so WE just winning everywhere on the map, and even better for them, the first Drake is going to be an infernal one. This is going to favor their scaling composition very well, and just huge mistake from Vici in the mid lane taking that fight. Crash not really having the tank stats. He was already in a skirmish with Condi before they moved to the mid lane, so no frost armor to really defend. And we also see the Gangplank cannon barrage going in. Condi landing the EQ combo on the tip of the spear, getting all of his damage down and successfully taking down Malzahar. And
as we were talking about, Clement, it was a very quiet match until that point. Not only did we see double ganks in the mid lane, but also bottom lane outer turret falling. And that's kind of what you picked up right there, Clement. Unsealed spellbook coming out from Mystic means he swapped that barrier out for a teleport. Teleports down into the bottom lane. You said we've seen this on Sivers, and we see this picked up on Caitlyn. Why is this being picked up on AD carries?
Well, both of these champions have a tendency to play fast push compositions very well. And against scaling comps like Martin's Jinx right here, he can constantly push the lane and keep that turret shoved in. And if that turret goes down with the Infernal Drake, it's such a huge boon to their team comp.
During this time, though, Martin as well as Caveman are looking to try and return the favor, take down bottom lane outer turret for themselves. Team WE are the first team to make the swap, however, as Mystic and Ben make their way into the top lane.
And this is still a good trade for WE because they are looking at a 2-for-1 right now. If they get the top lane, they also have the Herald available to them, which will help them crack open the mid turret.
Team WE have already been able to pick up a gold lead for themselves, currently sitting on just over 1,000 gold up.
And already pinging the Herald at this point. Vici are going to try to stop this by going all the way into the bot lane. 3 people here trying to force the issue.
Vici will look to try and see if they can take down bottom lane in a turret. 3-member strong Team WE looking to try and get back into this bottom lane. Galio going to use his ultimate to collapse onto Vici. Good damage onto this turret, but xiye does have a ton of wave clear. Caveman's taken quite a hit here as well. He's going to be forced to back away from this turret.
Good move from xiye right there. Almost was stopped by the Malzahar, but what he was trying to do was basically just wave clear, not looking for kills, not trying to sway to dive, just trying to push the wave out so they can get a 2-for-1 trade.
Meanwhile, Meow trying to go 2-on-1 against Mystic as well as Condi. He's going into Mega Gnar shortly. Ultimate comes out from the Gangplank, but Meow will be able to jump away from not only the Cataclysm, but as well as the Pirate's ultimate. Ben coming back in, looking to try and go toe-to-toe against the Gnar. Not able to do so, and Team WE will pick up the Rift Herald.
Still has enough health. Caitlyn saves her ultimate and lets the Gnar walk away. The next move for WE is definitely going to be that bot lane. Malzahar at this point, only with 1 item complete, can't really full push the wave against xiye and Caitlyn at the same time, so we should look for that push when it comes in.
Team WE, although it's not really the champions you would look towards a global team composition with this teleport on the Caitlyn, the Galio, the Gangplank with teleport as well, playing across the map, not only able to defend bottom lane, but also push top side of the map, take down Rift Herald, and it's given them a nice and early gold lead against Vici. 2,000 gold up now.
This really did start from the ban picks. I felt like they did a good job pinching down on the marksman position. No Callista. The rest of the picks, Vayne, I think would have done even worse in this type of situation. So WE really pulling up another trick in their playbook, the fast push composition that they've done at Worlds and were so successful with, doing it again here in LPL Spring 2018.
Picking up the Infernal Dragon as well. Early on in the match means that they will be able to snowball slightly better into the late game too. Mountain Dragon is the next one to come up, but there's still some time before that objective is online. And mid lane outer turret probably going to be the big contention point between the two teams shortly.
WE already have this Rivers set up very well. They have the scuttle, so Caitlyn can go to the mid lane fairly easily. What they're trying to do here is really corner Vici into the left side of the map so they can make that transition.
Vici protecting the blue buff there. Easyhoon is able to pick it up for himself. Xiye counter jungling on the bottom side of the map, taking away Raptors, just trying to squeeze out every inch of gold, or every piece of gold, I should say, away from Vici.
Very good rotation coming in from WE. They already have Jinx in the side lanes, puts down the Herald, and there's only xiye to defend right now.
Let's see what they can do. Crash and Easyhoon are in this mid lane. Rift Herald is going to get a full health charge on this turret. Takes it down below half health with Mystic and Ben. This turret is going to fall, and Team WE have now taken down all of the outer turrets in their, on their side of the map, I should say.
And we know if you have 3 outer turrets down before the enemy team, your win rate is very, very high. It goes over to almost 90% if the enemy wasn't able to equalize anything. Vici do have 1 tower, so that win rate is still about 70%. It's a very, very high win rate when you get this. What W can now do now that they have all of their Silene turrets taken is that they can start to stack up waves and really push those waves in deep and try to play for like a slow push on one side of the map and try to go and group up on the other.
So where do you expect us to see this? Because it's still 14 minutes in the game, Clement. There's no Baron. Mountain Dragon, yes, will be up in a minute, but there's no Rift Herald to take either. So what side of the map are Team WE really going to play towards? Because the first 3 turrets in an early push, that's the easy part done. Yeah. This is the stage where it starts to get a little bit more difficult for Team WE.
They're definitely going to go for the Mountain Drake and just head into the bot lane. Mountain Drake is it's one of the better Drakes if you're playing a fast push composition like WE are right now. And I feel like Gangplank can just wave clear fairly safe under his tier 1 tower. So not really a lot of pressure to alleviate him up there. W should just continue to do what they're doing right now. And you know, just push the bot wave, set up for the Mountain Drake, and continue to push the bot lane afterwards.
And that's exactly what Team WE are doing for now. You can see Gangplank still top side of the map, 4-member strong Team WE trying to get as much control over the red side of Vici's jungle. Vici, however, they need to make some sort of proactive attempt here because just from these early game plays, Team WE are now 4,000 gold in lead, and that's just getting even further and further ahead for them.
But it does feel very difficult for Vici just because how fast this game has been going. If you look at the Gnar, he hasn't even completed his first item. And on Jinx, you really need your 2-item spike to be effective at anything. What Vici are trying to do is trying to counter the 4-man push in the bot and to try to dive this Gangplank. He's been having too good of a time.
133 CS, already picked up his Trinity Force. It's going to slowly become a nuisance for Vici to deal with. But as you mentioned earlier, Clement, 4-member strong Team WE, they take down the Mountain Dragon, again trying to stack up these waves. Vici are being spread out across the map, and it just doesn't seem like they have any way to attack Team WE at the moment.
Galio also has free reign, so if he can check the Malzahar, that takes away a huge point of engage for Vici Gaming. I kind of feel it's pretty much down to Crash at this point to make a hero play, and here he goes.
Tries to. Xiye in some trouble, will be locked down by the Sejuani, but Gangplank's ultimate dealing a lot of damage means Xiye 2-on-1, more than happy to turn around and take the trade.
Yep, and unfortunately Meow was not around the area to secure that kill for them, just went back and finished his Black Cleaver. 957 probably aware of that. So telling the timings to his team, and you could see that xiye actually went even a bit aggressive in that play, even in a 2v1 scenario.
Crash just trying to secure as much of the bottom side of his jungle as possible. Team WE, the bottom side will now head back to base. What they were able to take down was a Mountain Dragon, you know, secure some vision over the bottom side of the jungle. And again, almost strangle out Vici here. Just doesn't seem like they have any way to fight back against this global team composition.
Yeah, and the RNG has not been kind to them. If we look at these Drakes, 2 Infernals and 1 Mountain. That's pretty much a dream come true for WE. For me, Vici have to contest this next Drake. If they let it go to W, I feel like it's an abyss that they're never going to climb out of. They do need to fight that next Drake.
Let's see if they do, because Vici have to fight somewhere. We know that this is a team that used to like to try and fight in the late game. They have a late game scaling team composition. But Team WE just so fast in this match already. Caitlyn now swapping to the top side of the map now that Dragon is on a long cooldown before the third element of Dragon comes back up.
The question for Vici is how much gold can they funnel into Martin before this next Infernal Drake comes up? If they can get double items on him, then the situation is much better than it is now. But if they can't, I feel like they're just forcing themselves into a very bad fight that they kind of have to take.
Condi now rotates towards top side of map, has the countdown onto the blue buff, gonna try and donate that over to xiye, who picks it up. Once again, good control over Crash's jungle, making sure that he's being punished with every rotation. Baron's gonna be the next objective that comes up, 1 minute and 20 seconds until we hit 20 minutes in this game.
Unfortunately for Vici, Malzahar not really a champion that can do much. If his mid turret goes down, he needs to catch up to the wave, and he's not much of a roamer himself. I feel like that was a huge boon for WE, as Vici typically plays a lot of control mages.
Actually going for a fight. Ultimate comes out from Gangplank. Crash still stuck inside of it after Condi pops his own. Caveman in trouble. Xiye trying to chase them down. Lockdown coming out from Easyhoon, but that's just to stop the rest of his members from taking any more damage. And Team WE not very committal to that team fight, but they win it nonetheless.
Yeah, that was very interesting from Condi, so you could see him actually stutter a little bit. Vici were definitely coming in with the engage. We see the Gnar TP also used, but W were still able to flip into Vici, and Vici just understood that they could not take the fight at that point and kind of backed off, even though they really need to fight sooner or later.
Teleport being used into the mid lane by 957. No, CS going to be teleporting back into the mid lane just to make sure that Team WE are relentless in their pressure. And as you mentioned early on, last year we saw it was tank Galios being picked up in the mid lane and sometimes top side of the map. This time around, a little bit more hybrid coming out from the Galio. We have the Leandri's Torment, we have the Abyssal Mask being picked up as well.
And this is the build that we're seeing over in the LCK as well. You get more bang for your buck now that the AP scaling has been up for Galio. We've all seen Worlds, you know, FLICKR picking Galio 5 times, being unkillable. Now he also does a lot of damage.
As Meow trying to be a little bit aggressive in this mid lane, takes quite a chunk of damage from the Galio. Caveman even stepping up just to clear out a couple of wards. And again, Team WE not committing to a team fight just yet, but making sure that they keep on pressuring Vici every time they step up to try and take back some control in this game.
Vici do have a good setup around Infernal Drake. If we can see the river, they do have 2 very well-placed control wards. So if they can try to make picks around those 2 control wards, then maybe they could catch WE out. But W are kind of denying them setting up further by just straight heading into the Baron now.
And it seems that's going to be the next point of contention for Team WE. Just 20 minutes into the game, though, very early to try and take Baron buff away from the opposition. Infernal Dragon will come up in the next minute, so they can already swap down to the bottom side of the map.
W also have a very good chance of engaging onto Vici if they do come and check into these corridors. They can just use the Cannonball combo of Condi and Galio to trap Vici members in that choke. They're starting the Baron right now.
They're not going to stop. There was a scrying orb being used by Jinx to try and stop this. Xiye looking to try and contest here. Caveman's the front lines, not taking too much damage as Braum will try and jump away, but Mystic gets that first kill. Galio trying to jump into the fight as well. Crash on the retreat. The rest of Vici know that they can't quite fight back at the moment. Team WE get a single pick and make their way back towards the pit.
That was great timing from WE. So a number of things that they did right was that Meow did not have his teleport. Also, if you look at the Jinx, still has not completed her second item. Just went home and got that. So it was very easy for them to win the fight.
WE not only take the Baron, force a flash out of Easyhoon, and again have put this game on a timer, slowly strangling Vici out of the game. And it just seems like there's nothing Vici have been able to do from level 1 of this match.
So I feel like W are playing on Vici's tendencies. Vici is a very passive team at times. They really do look to scale up, but against a fast push composition, you do have to pick your moments to go in, or else you're never going to get the chance.
Well, Vici will try to take a consolation prize of this Infernal Dragon, but Team WE, they don't even want them to be able to pick up this objective. Condi, son of Baron, is able to take away the Infernal Dragon, and Vici get absolutely nothing.
And apparently, Drakes are also the part of the family of Barons as well, because there was no hesitation from Condi there. Both were level 11. Condi still able to outsmite Crash there.
And this game is looking like an absolute disaster for Vici at the moment, Clement.
Yeah, they did miss a lot of opportunities. I feel like if Crash wanted to do something, he should have tried for the bot lane, use that Glacial Prison ultimate, try to catch Mystic and Ben off guard. But there were very few attempts, and when there were attempts, it actually went in the way of WE. So that's why we're seeing such a landslide coming out.
And where do Vici put up their last stand? This is normally a question that we ask when inhibitors are falling down or teams at their Nexus turrets. But for the pace of this match, Clement, where do Vici decide, you know what, we need to do something, we need to do it now, whether it's favorable or not? Because slowly Team WE are just getting further and further ahead, ripping Vici apart piece by piece.
To be honest, I feel like WE is going to have no problem just taking all the towers straight to the high ground. They have a very good sieging composition. And if Vici, they need to land their ultimates on Mystic. And that's just so difficult to do with xiye and Condi for sure going to be in that mid line. So I feel like Vici, for them, their time for those engages outside of the base is kind of past. They need to scale up, continue to get items on Jinx, and kind of wait for the high ground push coming in from WE.
WE going to get some chip damage on the top lane in a turret, still splitting their focus between top lane and mid lane. Vici do have a nice mini wave that is pushing back for them on the bottom side of the map. But again, WE slowly chipping away at these turrets, making sure that Vici are never grouped up as 5. They never have their full force available to fight them and pick them off where they're weak.
It's very good understanding of the type of chip damage they're doing to towers, which is chip damage. They're able to constantly push in 2 lanes at the same time. And at this point in time, Crash really can't go into team fights. He has no armor items against a 2.5 item Mystic with Janna at her side. So, yeah, I think Vici's definitely waiting for the high ground. They're not going to contest any of this.
Well, they've already been pushed back to their base on 2 fronts. Bottom lane in a turret is the last turret outside of Vici's base standing for them. And you already know that's the exact objective that Team WE are going to make their way towards. Teleports still available for both xiye as well as 957. Mystic has swapped back to heal as his summoner spell of choice, despite the fact that Ben still has his.
Knows that he's going to go into more team fight phase, so opting in for that heal to keep himself alive against Easyhoon and Crash. Good choice by him.
He now has his 3rd item complete here. Rapid Fire Cannon is the pickup for Caitlyn.
That 800 range coming out from auto attacks on Caitlyn is going to make short work of towers.
On top of that, a high crit chance, and the fact that not many players from Vici have armor at the moment. In fact, the only person you'll really be looking towards is Caveman or Sejuani when her passive is up. But Warmogs is the first item for Crash, means once that passive is down, Mystic's going to be able to make short work of him.
Yeah, and we are looking at Vici that needs to charge into Caitlyn traps and also Gangplank barrels, which seems kind of like an impossible task. I'm very interested in how they're going to try to break the siege at this point. If they allow WE any time to set up at all, I feel like their chances will go down drastically. So Vici need to engage as soon as they hit the high ground.
Condi's been able to find Crash, decides not to engage, but Team WE have their eyes on the prize, and that is the bottom lane outer turret, or inner turret I should say. The last turret standing for Vici that is not in their base. xiye taking some damage from the poke of Martin. You can already see just a couple abilities thrown the Jinx's way, pokes him down.
Oh,
even xiye chunking out Crash, the main tank of the team.
Welcome, this is the new Galio. Still very powerful. It is less tanky, especially to magic damage, but it doesn't matter at this point. He can just poke.
Meow just went Mega Gnar as well, so this wave for Team WE is a strong one for them to push. No teleport going to be threatening them too much by Meow. In fact, Condi decides he wants to jump in. Easyhoon pops his own ghost. 957 trying to go forward. That barrel dealing a lot of damage. Caveman jumps to his side, making sure that he is safe. Team WE now making their march towards the base of Vici.
That was actually a bit of... Oh, they're still going in?
They're going in. Both Flash trying to get out of the Cataclysm as well as Galio. Meow using his teleport onto the inhibitor turret, but it gets blown up. xiye goes forward. He takes down Jinx. Caveman's now the one that's in trouble. Easyhoon trying to lock down the team. Vici on the retreat all the way back to their fountain. Mystic not going to let them get there. Meow in trouble. Mystic tries to snipe him off. Can't quite do so. But 27 minutes into the game, Team W have broken the base and they're going for the Nexus.
Mystic there went for some style points. Wanted to end him with the Peacemaker. Could have auto attack, but still tried for the Q.
One last stand from Meow is able to knock everybody back, but he melts instantly. Team WE just don't care at the moment. Marching straight into Vici's base. They take the inhibitor turret, they take the inhibitor and a Nexus turret on top of that.
And they also have another Infernal Drake coming up. So everything going perfectly for WE. Now, I felt like Vici actually had a very good chance for an engage right there. We could see WE just use 2 of their ultimates. Didn't get much out of it, but Vici, they were just too slow in getting Meow, who is also in Gnar, to the fight, and they just gave W a free opening to go in on their composition. And we could see xiye with that death cap, with that Leandries, doing so much damage to Martin.
Besides the fact that there was a turret trade in this game, Clement, it's nearly been a perfect game for Team WE. No one has fallen in these fights. They're playing team fights perfectly. Every single Elemental Dragon has been picked up by their side. Condi now might be walking into a little bit of a trap. Locked down by Easyhoon. Good damage coming out from him. Crash tries to follow up, and Easyhoon gets the first kill of the game for Vici.
And this does look like it might open a potential Baron for them. But Meow doesn't want to go there, still heading toward the bot lane.
So they just get a pick and relieves some pressure
for
so Vici.
Vici, this tells me that Vici are still confident in their scaling game, so they're not going to go for the Desperation Baron like a lot of teams would.
Well, they may attempt for it now. Condi still 13 seconds in the Death Chamber. Team WE, 4 members strong on the top side of the map. Looking to see if they can try and contest for this. Meow is on his way. CS steps up to the plate, tries to get damage inside the pit. Misses. Martin in trouble though. Finds a wild pyro and he goes on as he gets some good damage on that Jinx. But the first to fall is Caveman. Martin is shortly after. Gnar can't do too much. His back's against the wall. Double kill picked up for Gangplank. And Team WE 4-on-5 turn it around.
That was a missed call from Vici. If they wanted to go for their Baron, they should have started the instant they killed Condi. Instead, they went to push the top lane and the mid lane out, which gave W a lot of time to get back on the map. We could see 957 was just finishing off the Infernal Drake, had enough time to walk all the way towards the Baron pit. So I feel like if you're Vici, you want to do that Baron play, you should do it immediately.
Well, now without 3 members on their squad, Vici are not able to defend the mid lane inhibitor turret or the mid lane inhibitor. Team WE march all the way through and could rotate now towards top side map to take down that final inhibitor that's left standing for Vici.
And they also get the Baron buff there, so we're seeing a Baron buff and triple Infernal pushing down a top lane. For Vici, their only chance, again, is a sudden engage. They cannot let W set up. They don't have any windows for that, and we're going to have to see Crash come out with a very good ultimate.
And again, slow and steady wins the race for Team WE, making sure they reset, purchase all the items they can with the gold they have available, take all the buffs away, blue buff for xiye, red buff being picked up for Mystic as well, then rotate towards top side of the map. 957 even teleporting in to join the rest of his team. He has 5 items in the Gangplank. Mystic 5.5 items on the Caitlyn. They're trying to go for a pick on the xiye, but even though this is ability power, Galio, he's just still so tanky. 3 members strong and Vici can't fight him. He turns around and says, all right, you want to fight? I'll take you on. There's the uppercut. There he goes forward. Easyhoon tries to defend Caveman, but is it enough? No, it's not. Double kill. 2-on-3. Feichang Piao coming out of xiye as the rest of Team WE just march into the top lane, and they're going to try and end the game off the back of that.
xiye just styling. 1v3, no problem. Takes 2 people down and give W the very fast win.
And it was such a slow game from Team WE, but a fast finish at the end of that match. And this is just something we don't see too often in the LPL, Clement. A slow match between 2 teams. But then again, Team WE just tore them apart piece by piece.
I feel like Vici, they really needed to do something crazy. If they followed the game by this script, they were never going to win. They had to create some turbulence, especially with Crash. I felt like he didn't really use any of his ultimates to stop the pushing tempo coming out from WE. They opted into a lot of bad trades given from WE, and W is also just very, very lucky with the RNG. just a perfect PvE type of game from WE.
PvE type of game.
It didn't feel like nothing coming out from Vici felt unscripted or disruptive. It was just a very easy finish from start to end coming from WE.
Oh, it certainly was. From level 1, Team WE already knew exactly what they wanted to do against Vici, and that was slowly strangle them out of this match. And the goal graph just shows just that. Piece by piece.
21k damage. Highest damage of the game, AP Galio.
I mean, that final team fight just shows it all. Was it really a team fight, Clement? They tried to go for a pick on the xiye. It worked against Condi. However, Team WE got the Baron. After they say, you know what, let's take down the mid laner. And 3 members from Vici couldn't do that.
And they also lost 2 members in the process. That MR is crazy ridiculous on Galio, and a very good ban pick, very good game plan coming in from WE. What I want to see from Vici is a bit more fight. You know, they have to take their timings correctly. It's not the LSPL. You can't just sit back and wait for other teams to make mistakes. That's not going to happen as much in the LPL. Oh, it still happens a lot, but it's not as much, not as much.
Well, hopefully be able to see Vici put up more of a fight heading into game number 2. But for now, to break down that long, extended game coming up from Team WE, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Fish. And now, Rusty, I feel like you've been telling me porcupines. I
Have I?
feel like
What have I said?
you told me that Crash was an aggressive jungler. We were
I
going to
did
see
say
a
that,
much
actually.
accelerated Vici. And what did we see, Rusty? You tell me.
Not a lot. We saw a bit of Resident Sleeper from the side of Vici. Again, look, maybe he's been corrupted by the organization Pulse. I can't comment on Crash specifically, but he wasn't as aggressive as one wanted to see from him. However, I also wouldn't say that 100% of the blame goes to Crash, right? Firstly, he's playing Sejuani, and all of his lanes were losing lane. Pretty hard to be aggressive in any situation where your laners can't help you.
Fair. Let's talk about some of those picks as well, because we had a Jinx come out, and I feel like we have to talk about the Jinx here. So what's the thought process behind this pick? Now, this is 8.1. The changes come in 8.2 towards Jinx, and they haven't actually... I mean, it's a different patch.
Yeah, so the extra buffs or changes haven't existed yet for Jinx, but one of the things that I recently read from Pastry Time, actually, from NA, he was talking about Caitlyn and why she would be good in the current meta, and that is because everyone has stopwatch. You can place Caitlyn traps, and Jinx traps apply with this, which is why I think it's actually a pretty cool option to look for it, on top of the stasis person to guarantee extra CC, to guarantee to lock them down, and that wasn't necessarily visible in this game because the Jinx was against a Caitlyn, and I feel like the reason that Martin went for this pick and Vici went for this pick is to match the range of a Caitlyn, to match the scaling of a Caitlyn, and to spike that little bit harder when you get towards the late game stage without having the trap reliance that a Caitlyn will always have. But they just lost lane. They just tried so hard to survive the laning phase, and all they did was slowly lose it.
And that's pretty awesome as well, because we saw Mystic double down on that winning lane and pick up the unsealed spellbook. And we've seen this before. We saw it in the LCK, but we saw it here today, and that was hilarious. Went for the teleport there, went back to lane, instantly took the tower, went to top lane, took that tower too. And they just took everything away from them at the start of the game.
I didn't expect to see it from a Caitlyn of all things. Unsealed spellbook, super risky. Of course, xiye is your MVP. What I also didn't expect was a teleport from the Caitlyn to then 1v2 them, and then take a turret whilst 1v2ing them so confidently. That's how well they played.
I also wasn't expecting xiye to go the AP Galio right here, and this was just right at the end of the... two of them.
Makes you wonder, you know, if Vici pressed tab at any point here when they were looking for this play, because Galio, when he first got changed to AP, everyone was building him full AP, and he was making montages, highlights of him one-hitting everybody just by pressing Q with the tornado. But this game, he finds an opportunity in a 1v3. Looks like he's invincible for no reason against 3 of them as AP Galio just turns around and slaps them. And then knocks them up and they're dead.
And to be fair, this was like the perfect opportunity to go AP Galio, at least with like a bit of tank in there as well, because who was gonna kill him on that team? No one had scaled up. Jinx was still like 5 items from being relevant, so it's like, well, he might as well just do more damage, push all the way into the base and just finish off the game. But it just felt too easy from WE. It just felt like WE's style is like better Vici, or like what Vici aspire to be.
Kind of correct, yeah. I don't really know how to dispute that fact as well. WE have been doing it for longer. They've been more successful doing it. It does feel like holistically they are the better version of what Vici want to do. But what Vici usually excel at is the I don't want to lose the game, but they are very good at having a lead and then playing that path to victory more successfully.
That's true. Usually they have something in their back pocket, like an Easyhoon Azir or Easyhoon who's super farmed, but if they're getting pushed so hard that early game, I don't know what they can necessarily do. We'll investigate more as we are going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll be heading into Game 2 between Vici and WE.